in the car who was a recovering drug addict. We get there. My nephew says, "Uncle Dave, wait here." He runs up to the helicopter. He comes back and he's crying. He says, "Don't go. Don't go." He says, "Please don't go." My sister's eyeballs were burnt out of her head, Mary. My sister was burnt to a crisp, Mary. My brother-in-law died with my sister, Mary, because of a drunk. So I don't want to talk about alcohol. I don't want to talk about social drinking. I don't want to hear it. I don't allow it in my house. I don't allow anybody in my car with it. I don't mean you, Mary, of course. Somebody wants to drink, do what the hell you want. But drinking has become a way of life. And it's sad. Read the papers every day how many people are dying. Plus, let me tell you this, Mary. From cigarettes, from marijuana, from alcohol. Do you know this, Mary? Do you know how much throat cancer it causes? Do you know how much esophagus cancer it causes? Do you know how much brain damage it does? Do you know how much stomach problems it creates? Do you know what it does to your liver? I can go on all day long with this. Yet we never learn. We're always looking for a way out. Socially, hell. It's wrong. It's wrong. And I lost a sister because of it. I lost friends because of it. I have friends many cops that I work with, Mary, I got to tell you. Many cops that I work with are dead. You know what they're dead from? Drugs. They were doing drugs. Many of them dead from alcohol. Many of them studied all their life. They studied sergeant, lieutenant, captain, inspector, deputy chief. They ended up, many of them, paralyzed. Now, let me get to one other thing that I have been saying for years. And I want to share it with my audience. And Mary, you're a wonderful lady. Let me share it with you.
Okay.
I've been saying this for years. Did you see what come out of the AMA recently? Let me reiterate. Because of cigarettes, because of drugs, and because of alcohol, they are now finding premature Alzheimer's in young people because it's doing a lot of damage to the brain. And we're going to have an epidemic in this society with Alzheimer's disease, with all kinds of problems, because the young kids today in schools, it's okay to have a few drinks. It's okay to smoke. No, it's not okay. No, and we're all going to pay one hell of a price. And you know the price? I got people in my family. And let me tell you, I got a brother who has Alzheimer's. He was wounded in World War II. He laid on a battlefield for 10 days before they found him. He's in bad shape today, but he has Alzheimer's. I got a sister-in-law that has Alzheimer's. I got a sister who's on the road to Alzheimer's. It's a devastating disease. Think of all these millions of people now are going to be there one day, because you can't play around with that 3 pounds inside the skull. You can't do that. You can't stick poisons in there. Alcohol is a poison. Grass is a poison. Pills are a poison. Some people need certain medications. I understand that. But a doctor will tell you in most cases, I'm going to give you medication for so-and-so. But only for a short period of time. My wife is different. My wife's a diabetic. She has to take medication for diabetes. But it still has a different effect on her. Anything you put in your body. So again, you're playing around with the stuff out there on the street. You're playing a dangerous game. And Mary, I will take anybody who wants to come. I'll go to a treatment center, put 200, 300, 500 people, recovering drug addicts that have been recovering for years. Talk to them, and you get the greatest information you ever want to get. You know what the problem is, though, today? They want to get a professor from a college and say, "Well, doctor, according to your statistics, what do you think?" He or she doesn't know. You got to go to the source, and that's where I've learned. Mary, 60 years I'm in this business, and if I had time, I'd tell you thousands of stories that I know in Hollywood, on the streets, with cops, with lawyers, with doctors, with neighbors, all because of drugs, also with alcohol. So, Mary, listen to me.
Yes.
Take the other approach. If they ever, which they're not as long as I'm alive, if they ever legalize it, we're in one hell of a mess. And then you know what? You don't remember, Mary. You're too young. I can hear your voice. But a man by the name of Khrushchev years ago was banging his from Russia was banging his shoe on a table and said, "You will destroy yourselves." And that's exactly what we're doing, Angelo,
Absolutely.
aren't we?
Absolutely.
Very simple. So anybody out there talking about decriminalization, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're setting yourself up for. You don't even realize what's happening. Anybody talking about recreational, I got to tell you another story. I want to tell you, it's important. I'm in a Barnes & Noble recently. How this annoys me, Mary. I'm walking around now. Why does this happen? I don't know. Thousands of books in there. I honestly can tell you a book jumps out at me. Almost jumped out at me. I'm opening the book. In this book, a woman doctor who has her own treatment center, and she works with other people with her, all have their PhDs. And they're doing well. They're making a lot of money in this treatment center out in San Francisco. You got to read this book, Mary. You get sick. In the book it says, if you're going to do drugs, you got to find a responsible drug dealer. Don't get it from any drug dealer. You got to find a responsible drug dealer.
It comes from references.
If you're smoking pot and the pot is too strong and it's making you delirious, then you got to go to a different place and get different kinds of pot that won't affect you. This is someone who's making tons of money off people. This is sick. This is sick.
Who is her target reader?
What'd you say, Mary?
I said, who is her target reader? Who is she targeting and giving this advice to?
Who's she giving you? No, she wrote a book. She wrote a book and people are buying the book.
Yeah, but with Mary's question,
I didn't hear this.
What's her targeted audience? Who's the book written for?
I don't know, but I do know this. I know this. She had about 9 or 10 books there. 3 days later, I went back, all the books are gone. Started buying their books. You know why? Let me tell you why they buy the books. Whew! I can justify myself now. Oh my God, somebody told me what I'm doing is okay. Everybody wants justification. So you went into somebody tells you pot's no good and you're smoking pot, you say, hey, this guy's a nut. Who that wants to talk to him? You talk to another woman, this woman's a nut. You talk to somebody, says, hey, don't listen to them. I smoke pot, I'm okay. Oh, are you? Right. Oh, you're my friend. Right. You see, let me tell you, Mary, by the way, let me tell you a quick thing. I got a guy doing cocaine for years. He says to me he can deal with the coke. It never affects me. He said, I can deal with it. I like the coke, I can deal with it. I said, you know, you are right. It really doesn't affect you. Your wife left you. Your kids don't want to bother with you. And you were on Route 109 recently. You had half your clothes off, no shoes on, in the middle of the street directing traffic. It is doing good for you, isn't it? And he said, oh, yeah. So now let me tell you, Mary, what he says to me. So I said, did you see recently what happened? That some people overdosed on cocaine. It was loaded up with some stuff that I'm not going to go through right now. I said, did it scare you? He said, no, man. I'm trying to get some of that stuff. Oh, he wanted the stuff that killed people. He said, because it's powerful stuff. And he told me, he was straight for a while, and he said a drug dealer called him up and said, I don't want to give you anything. I just want to see how you're doing. But you know what happened to him, Mary? I'm going to show you about the human mind. Once he heard the drug dealer on the phone, he started to tremble. He started to throw up in the house. He said, the drug dealer, I got to go see you. I got to come and see you because it's in the head. Mm-hmm. You see, the addiction's in the head. It's not the body anymore. Physically, it's gone. It's up in the head. You can't cut it out. It's there. And that's what's happening to millions of people out there. My brother-in-law was a drunk, and you know what he did? Sometimes he didn't drink for 8, 9 months. He was great. You know what my mother-in-law used to say? Yeah, but when he's not drinking, he's a good man. And every time he was drinking, Angelo, you know what he did? He used to grab my sister-in-law by the throat, put her head up against the wall. He ripped her earrings out of her ears. She used to run home to my mother-in-law screaming, Ma, Ma, Ma. He'd go on for 6, 7, 8 days, and then he was clean again. That's what the alcohol has done to many people in my family, many neighbors, many cops that I know, many lawyers that I know, many doctors that I know, and more than I can count people on the streets who are being destroyed every day. So, Mary, if I can get one person to stop smoking pot and stop doing drugs and stop drinking, then you, Mary, and your family can ride down Route 37 and not worry. But now, right now, down Route 37, there's a lot of people getting high, and God forbid, one of us is going to be the next victim, and that's why I do what I do, Angelo. Not for me. For you, for Mary, for her family, for everybody. Because remember one thing.